Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little different. We are setting the time circuits to, well, right now, specifically today, February 14th, 2026.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Ha, right. And if you are standing in Montreal looking out a window, you're probably seeing two things. Snow, obviously, and cranes. Just lots and lots of cranes.
It really is a forest of steel out there. I was looking at the latest aerial surveys this morning, and the sheer density of heavy machinery is unlike anything we've seen in the last decade.
But here's the hook for today's deep dive. The city isn't just getting taller. If you look at the urban planning reports, the economic summaries we've pulled together, it's clear that Montreal is fundamentally changing its DNA. It's a structural metamorphosis.
That's the perfect way to frame it. I mean, we aren't just seeing new buildings. We're seeing a shift in how the city lives, how the economics of housing even work, and literally, on a physics level, how the walls are actually being built.
We have a massive stack of sources today. We've basically distilled this all down into three massive themes for you. First, the rebirth of these industrial giants in the East End.
Heritage meeting high tech.
Exactly. Second, the big economic pivot to an all-rental market, which is changing who gets to live where and, frankly, for how much.
And third, the part I'm really excited about, the revolution. The sci-fi reality of construction tech, from 3D printing to buildings that can diagnose their own leaks.
It sounds wild, but the sources back it up. So let's orient ourselves. We're starting in the East End. For years, I feel like the East End was sort of the forgotten sibling to the downtown core.
Oh, for sure. But looking at the 2026 data, that narrative is completely dead. The center of gravity in Montreal is shifting east. And if you want to understand this shift, you have to look at the giants.
And that starts with the Gare Viger project.
It has to.
I love this example because it's such a visual clash. You have this historic, castle-like building, the Chateau Viger.
A symbol of old railway power.
Right. It looks like something out of a fairy tale. And now, it's the headquarters for Lightspeed. It's the old economy meeting the new economy in a very, very literal way.
It's the textbook definition of adaptive reuse, but just on a massive scale. The sources describe it as a $300 million investment covering 1.2 million square feet.
Yeah.
But the interesting part is that it's not just a workplace.
No, it's designed as a 247 ecosystem.
Exactly. It's not a place you just leave at 5 p.m. You've got the Hyatt-centric hotel, the Cartier Arms restaurant, and then, of course, the residential side.
Right, the residential. The data shows 321 rental apartments there now. And I noticed the pricing in the report studios are starting at $1,580.
Which tells you exactly who this is for. This is for the young professionals, the tech workers at Lightspeed, maybe the medical staff from the Chiam Super Hospital right next door. It's a whole contained loop.
It's dense urban living. But speaking of the hospital, the feature that really caught my eye in the architectural review was this oasis concept.
Ah, yes, the courtyard.
They replaced a massive asphalt lot with a 36,000 square foot interior courtyard. I mean, in February, it might just look like a snowfield, but from a planning perspective, that's huge.
It's a necessary bridge between the hospital and the waterfront. It's softening the concrete jungle. But if you think Gare Viger's big, we have to talk about the duel of the giants happening just down the street.
This is the main event.
This is where the scale gets staggering.
You have Molson versus Radio-Canada, two multi-billion-dollar projects, 500 meters apart? It's like two heavyweight boxers in a phone booth.
It really is. Let's look at Quartier Molson first. That's a $2.5 billion project. And their strategy, looking at the plans, is leaning hard into heritage and river access.
Which is smart. They're keeping the iconic Molson Tower, the chimney, and that giant clock everyone in Montreal knows. You can see it from the bridge.
It anchors the skyline.
But I also love that they're bringing back Sommer Park. The sources say it's a tribute to a 19th century amusement park that was on that site. 150,000 square feet of public space.
That's the whole resort vibe they're going for. But then just across the way, you have Quartier de Lumières on the old Radio-Canada site. $2 billion. But a totally different philosophy.
It's not about resort living. It's focused on the knowledge economy and smart city concepts.
And they're further ahead, right? The Augustin Louis phase is already delivered. The look is much more contemporary, lots of glass, step structures. It feels very different from the brick-and-mortar feel of Molson.
Yeah, and Molson is still in the ground preparation phase, which sounds like a bit of a headache. The decontamination alone is costing them $100 million.
Oh, you build on an industrial brewery site from centuries ago.
Yeah.
Soil has a lot of history and chemicals trapped in it.
But the thing that really stood out to me in the reports was the logistical nightmare of building these two at the same time.
Oh, it's an operations management case study waiting to happen. You have two massive sites sharing the same roads. The reports actually mention they have to coordinate the concrete trucks so they don't block Notre Dame East simultaneously.
If they get that wrong, they paralyze the East End. And it's not just trucks, it's people. Together, they're adding about 16,000 people to a 2-kilometer radius.
Which is basically a small town.
A small town dropped into a few city blocks, so that's the big question, isn't it? Transit. Can the Papineau and Berry-UQA metro stations handle that by 2030?
The reports are, let's say, optimistic but skeptical. It's going to be a major stress test for the Orange Line.
Okay, so the East End is booming. But let's move a bit further out to something that hits a huge nostalgia button for a lot of Montrealers, myself included. Place Versailles.
The Grande Dame of the East.
The fountains, the marble. I remember getting lost in there as a kid. But it's undergoing a massive overhaul now, isn't it? This isn't just a renovation.
No, it's a complete retrofit. This falls under a global trend called retrofitting suburbia. Place Versailles, as it is a 17-hectare heat island. It's mostly parking lots. This project, valued at $2.2 billion, is turning it into a mixed-use community.
The scale is just wild. 5,805 new housing units. That's bigger than some entire subdivisions.
And look at the design. They're using transit-oriented principles. You get towers up to 25 stories near the metro, but then it steps down to 6 or 8 stories to blend in with the neighborhood.
And they're ripping up 4,000 surface parking spots.
Putting them underground, and then replacing that asphalt with greenery. The plan calls for planting 620 trees. That's a small forest.
It is. But what I find really interesting is the social component. It's not just luxury towers. The sources mention a new elementary school and 979 social housing units integrated into the site.
That's crucial. It's the balance between nostalgia, losing the old mall, and resilience. But it's a 25-year project.
It's a long game. We're talking about construction that won't be done until the late 2040s.
Development at this scale is generational. But let's pivot to the economics of all these units. We keep seeing the word rental pop up. It seems the era of the condo tower is maybe not dead, but definitely hibernating.
Hibernating is a polite way to put it. The symbol of development used to be the condo sales office. Now, developers are building to rent, not to sell. Let's unpack the why of that.
It comes down to cold, hard math. Two main reasons. First, interest rates. They've stabilized around 4.5% to 5%. That just eroded individual purchasing power.
So the buyer pool dried up?
Exactly. People can't qualify for the mortgages. But the second factor is on the developer side. The government removed the GST on new rental construction. That saves developers about 5% of their total project costs.
That's a huge margin for a builder. On a $100 million building, that's $5 million straight to the bottom line. It changes the whole calculation.
It does, and the profitability is there. The reports show rental buildings in Montreal can yield between 11% and 14%. That beats a one-time condo sale. They're creating income-generating assets.
So what does that look like for the person actually living there? Because the sources describe it as hotel-style living.
Yes. It's a service-heavy model. You get the gym, the pool, the co-working space, but you don't build equity, and the price matches the amenities. A new 2-bedroom averages $22.60 a month.
Wow. And that leads to this big social consequence. The renter-for-life model.
This is the critical tension. We're seeing a gap widen. Montreal needs about 72,000 new units a year to restore affordability, but we're stuck producing, what, 23,000?
And the 2020 bylaw? Well, developers are just paying the fines, right? The city collected $66 million because they'd rather pay than build the social units.
It suggests the math of the bylaw doesn't align with the math of construction. So the market produces high-end rentals, and the affordable stock just lags behind.
It's a tough spot. But there is another way units are coming online, and it's surprisingly resourceful. Adaptive reuse, converting offices to homes.
This is vital, and it's driven by the Category B office crisis. These are older office buildings, less energy efficient. Companies don't want them anymore, so developers are gutting them and turning them into housing.
And it's not just downtown, it's happening in the West Island, the East End. I really like the example of Unvillage in Lachine.
That's a great project, a co-housing initiative. But the benefits are really about two things: speed and carbon.
Okay, let's talk about the carbon. Why is reusing an old concrete frame so good for the planet?
It's all about embodied carbon. Making concrete and steel takes a massive amount of energy. If you tear down a building, You waste all that. If you keep the structure, you save about 50% of the embodied CO2 compared to a new build. It's the ultimate form of recycling.
Plus speed. The sources say permits take 6 months versus like 18 to 24 for a new build.
Exactly. And socially, you fix the evening desert problem. Business districts that go quiet after 5 p.m. suddenly have residents. It revitalizes the whole street level.
Okay, so we've covered what they're building and where. Now I want to get to the third theme. How they're building it. Because reading these sources on construction tech, it felt like a sci-fi script, the Robolution.
It does sound futuristic, but it's born out of necessity. We have a severe labor shortage in 2026. We simply don't have enough people to lay bricks and hang drywall, so the industry is turning to prefabrication.
And we're not just talking about a prefabricated door here. The sources talk about modular pods.
Yes. Imagine a factory where they build the entire bathroom. Tiling, plumbing, electrical, cabinets, everything. Then they shrink wrap it, put it on a truck, drive it to the site, and a crane just lifts it into place.
It's like Lego.
It is exactly like Lego. It cuts the finishing time by 50%. And if you live next door to the site, you love this. It reduces noise and dust by 70% because all the messy work happens miles away.
There's that Avenir Lachine project. They stacked 40 units in just 10 days. You just can't get that speed with traditional framing.
No, you can't. But the other technology that's really pushing the envelope is 3D concrete printing.
Now, when I hear 3D printing, I think of little plastic figures, but this is not that.
No, this is happening right now in LaSalle. They're using massive robotic arms to print concrete wall sections. And the key is they do it off-site, inside a factory.
Which makes sense for Montreal. You can't pour concrete easily in minus 20 degrees.
Exactly. Factory conditions mean a perfect cure every time. It saves 35 to 40% in time. But here's the cool physics part. It uses 25% less material.
How does it use less material if it's still a wall?
Topological optimization. When you cast a concrete wall, it's a solid block. But a robot can print a lattice structure inside the wall, putting concrete only where the physics says it needs to be. It's lighter, stronger, and uses less cement.
That is just impressive efficiency. It feels like we're moving from brute force to smart construction.
We are. And that leads to the final piece of this puzzle, the cognitive building.
This part really blew my mind. This is way beyond just having a smart speaker.
This is native infrastructure. We're moving toward buildings that have digital twins. Before they lay a single brick, they simulate the whole building digitally to make sure nothing clashes.
So they build it virtually, perfect it, and then build it for real.
Right. But it doesn't stop when construction ends. The building creates its own health report. Imagine walls with sensors embedded in them. If there's a leak, you don't tear down drywall to find it. The building alerts the maintenance team and shows them exactly where the moisture is on a 3D map.
It's self-diagnosis for architecture.
Precisely. It shifts the building from being a passive shell to an active participant in its own maintenance.
It's incredible. So let's zoom out. We've covered a lot of ground. We've got the heritage revitalization with Molson and Viger, a massive economic shift to all rental, and a technological revolution with modular and 3D building.
And if you connect the dots, the theme is resilience and density. We're moving away from sprawl and toward optimizing existing spaces. We're retrofitting malls, converting offices, filling in the gaps. It's a maturing city.
It's a more efficient city for sure. But here's the thought that sticks with me, and I want to leave you with this. With these cognitive buildings and the renter for life model, we're entering a future where our homes are services, not structures.
That is the provocative question, isn't it? If the building knows it's leaking before you do, and you don't own the walls anyway, does the concept of home fundamentally change? Are we just subscribers to our living spaces?
It's a shift in mindset as much as a shift in construction.
Yeah.
Something to think about next time you see a crane on the skyline. It's not just steel and concrete up there. It's a whole new way of living being lowered into place.
And in Montreal, in February 2026, that's happening on just about every corner.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.